Well, previously we saw how we can create a pipeline with a scheduled activity. So we get these slices, these activity windows where the activity is performed on a regular scheduled basis. And one of the things you might be wondering is how can I troubleshoot issues that might have occurred? How can I go back and monitor and deal with problems that might have occurred when that scheduled pipeline is running? So let's take a look at that. Well, here I am in my Data Factory monitor tool, and you can see that I'm still waiting for the June data to come through here. And I've got this pane underneath here, we'll just drag that up a little bit, with all of the different activity windows that are available, all the slices that are going to happen. And I just want to check out the status here, and I'm going to check for any that have failed. So we'll just filter that to show me copies that have failed. And I can see actually there is a copy here that's failed. So I can go ahead and I can select that. And I can see that actually a failed copy is indicated as a little red square here. So as we've come to this point, it's failed. Now the scheduled pipeline is just carried on onto the next available slices. So it doesn't stop the entire pipeline, but that one particular activity window has failed. So I can scroll down a little bit and learn a little bit about what actually went wrong. And if I take a look, it says failed execution, copy activity executed at a user error at source. And if I take a look at that more there, it says error code, user error, invalid data value. So it says in the column points, there's the invalid value error. So I get a fairly detailed description of what the problem is. I can probably begin to guess what the problem is. But if I go and take a look at that file itself, so let's go back to my Cloud Explorer here, and we actually had a look in the ADF data container, my 2016 folder, in the O1 folder, and it was number 15. So we'll take a look at number 15 here. We'll open that up, and we'll just go and take a look. And sure enough, you can see that if I just boost the zoom up here so we can see this a bit more clearly, in that data file itself, this is the source file we were copying. Instead of having the points, we've got the text error, which obviously isn't a decimal value. So that's what's caused the error. There's a problem here in the source data. So, well, we could potentially fix that by going and fixing the data file so that it's ready to go. But the other thing I want to look at, if I go back to my window here, we filtered for failed, and if I click that, we see the failed window. You can also see that there's one here. There's a kind of strange thing happening here. We've got a whole bunch of dates copied, the 10th, 11th, 12th. The 13th still appears to be waiting. And it says it's waiting with dataset dependencies. So if I have a look at that one, I can see that one's waiting on concurrency limit because we're copying 5 at a time. That was the concurrency level I specified. That file exists, so we're just waiting for that. We're waiting to have an available slot to copy it. But this one's got a different status. It's waiting dataset dependencies. And again, if I go and play with my filter here, I could filter for anything that is waiting with dataset dependencies and see if there's any more of these guys. And actually, there's just the one. There's that one there on the 13th. So something's obviously odd about that one there on the 13th. And again, if I go back to my Explorer here, we'll just close that window there, and I look at the files that are in there, you can actually see that it goes from 11th to 12th to 14th. So the 13th file is actually missing. And that's the reason it's waiting. That file was never dropped in the folder. There's a couple of things that we can see can go wrong. We could actually have an error in the data, in which case something goes wrong, we get a red square. Or the data might just not be available to copy, in which case it just waits for it. It waits for that data to show up. And in this case, it shows us an orange square. So to rectify both of these problems, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and upload replacement files for these. We'll upload a new 13 file, and we'll replace the 15 file with a valid one. So we'll go ahead and click upload. And if I go and browse for that data, actually it's up here. So we're just going to grab both of those files. I've got alternative files that I'm just going to upload that have valid data in them. And we'll go ahead and upload those. It complains because obviously those files already exist. So we'll just go ahead and overwrite them. So we upload those files to overwrite them. And now if I go back to my window here in my monitor, I can go and click that 13, and I will go ahead and I will rerun that particular activity window. And you can see it immediately turns green. It starts rerunning. So we're going to go ahead and run that one. And we'll do the same with our 15. That one was invalid data. We'll go ahead and rerun that one. And again, that turns to that kind of light green. So that's going to go off and run and take however long it takes to upload that. Just refresh the window. Yeah, it's still running. We've finished uploading the one for the 6th, but we'll give that a minute or two. And eventually you can see that on the 15th here, the data has now been copied. We're still copying the data from the 13th, but we're catching up with those slices that failed or where the data wasn't available, and we're able to recover from those problems that we were able to find by using the monitoring tool and looking at the different activity windows.